Chapter 901. Stockings per player rankings. From just this single round, Happy's achievements were exceptional. However, in the current rankings, their numbers didn't stand out much because Happy had only completed one round, so for now, no one noticed anyone except for Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion. These two had actually grabbed a Grand Slam and even obtained rewards for it. Both incredible pieces of orange equipment were announced publicly in the global chat. It wouldn't be possible not to notice. The top guilds were gloomy. Seeing their current achievements, 31 stockings was their best record so far. This record was equivalent to around 10 stockings per round, just half the number of total stockings in a round, but now Lord Grimm had come out and snagged 20 stockings in one round, double their achievements. It was truly infuriating. But what could they do? They had failed to form an alliance. Even if they did, because of the randomness of the event, there were many variables that they could not control. From the start, there was no way to directly oppose Happy. The various guilds were distressed. Yishu and the others had begun another round already. After knowing that achieving a Grand Slam came with a reward and that the reward was quite good, this achievement definitely needed to be pursued. However, Happy did not adjust their team arrangements. The group of 5 was still the same group of 5. The 2 were still the same 2. The 3 were still participating individually. Getting the most stockings overall took precedence. After all, a Grand Slam wasn't exactly an easy feat. Everyone quickly used up their 3 event chances. As expected, a Grand Slam wasn't easy to get. Tang Ru, Wu Chen, and Mo Fan tried their best, but none of them managed to obtain a Grand Slam. Individuals didn't have any helpers. They had to rely on their own skill for everything. As a result, if the all 20 stockings were picked up and distributed among many players, it was truly too difficult once the countdown started. The only reliable method was to give up on a stocking to win more time to search for more stockings. However, relying on this method to achieve a Grand Slam might put you in an infinite loop. In the end, it was because you were on your own. You had limited information about the movements of the other players, so it wasn't possible to complete an effective stocking robbery. Without efficiency, in the later stages, you would likely be a walking stocking bag. It might just be better to forcefully end the round with what you had. On the other hand, Wei Chen's team achieved a Grand Slam once in the following 2 rounds. Wei Chen pretty much copied Yishu's strategy. He didn't feel embarrassed about it at all. As a result, along with a bit of luck, they swept the field with all 20 stockings in the second round. The Grand Slam rewards didn't disappoint them either. Each player in the team was rewarded with a piece of orange equipment. All of them were top-tier equipment that didn't lose out to Apocalypse Star or Sundering Apocalypse. However, in the third round, their luck didn't go so well. In the end, they ended with only 17 stockings, one less stocking than their first round. As for Yishu and Steamed Bun, their luck didn't go as well in the next 2 rounds. They ended up with 15 and 16 stockings respectively. Their Grand Slam in the first round had a lot of luck involved too. Just take how Steamed Bun followed that last team closely. That team decided to take a gamble and put all of their stockings on a single player, allowing Steamed Bun to snatch it all for himself in one go. If they had split the stockings between each member, no matter how fast Steamed Bun may be, he wouldn't be able to chase all 5 members. The goal of Yishu's strategy wasn't to go so far as to achieve a Grand Slam with every run. The strategy was to guide the overall situation. Then, when an opportunity arrived, they would strike, obtain a whole bunch of stockings at once, and take the lead. At the same time, their strike would mark the end of the round. That was Yishu's original goal. Being able to achieve a Grand Slam at the end had been a pleasant surprise. The occurrence could only be encountered, not sought out. After these 3 rounds, even if Happy wanted to avoid attention, they wouldn't be able to. No matter if it was their teams or their individuals, their achievements put them far ahead of the pack. For teams, as the event continued, the original leading record of 31 stockings became 33 stockings. It had improved, but it was no longer in the lead. Wei Chen's team was in the lead with a total of 55 stockings after 3 runs. It made the admirable record of 33 stockings set by the original scoreboard leaders turn into something incredibly tiny. After them, there was Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun with 51 stockings too. In total, Wei Chen's team had the highest total, but their team was a 5-player team like the others. Although their total was the highest, in terms of stockings per player, they lost to Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion by a wide margin. Because when this duo popped up on the rankings, players took note that the rankings could also be looked at by stockings per player. As a result, in that perspective, one team in Happy was above Windward Formation's team. In the stockings per player ranking, Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion averaged 25.5 stockings. It truly made the others jealous. As for Windward Formation's team, their stockings per player averaged to 11 stockings, number 3 on the ranking list. In group and second place, players discovered a team that was also made up of 2 players. This duo averaged 15 stockings per player, meaning their current total was 30 stockings. 30 placed them in the upper levels of the overall rankings, but it still didn't stand out, so it was no wonder that no one noticed them. This duo consisted of a character called None Dare Attack and another called Lower Your Head. Both characters had the same class, sharpshooters. Because of Joe Zekai's rising popularity recently and Joe Zekai being last year's champion, sharpshooters became the most popular class in Glory. According to the officially released statistics, a week after Samsara became the champions, the number of new sharpshooters in the 10 servers was no less than 50,000. Who knew if these 50,000 accounts were alternate accounts who happened to be leveled up at this time, but it was still an unprecedented occasion. The game company couldn't restrain themselves from reporting this incredible statistic to the public. The influence of the pro scene on the game could be seen from this occurrence alone, but for the pro scene itself, this influence couldn't be seen in a short period of time. From a long-term perspective, the higher the sharpshooter player base, the more sharpshooter experts existed. However, for pro teams, team composition mattered. Just because there were numerous outstanding sharpshooters didn't mean they were going to cram a bunch of sharpshooters onto a team. So in the end, although there may be numerous experts, there were only a limited number of spots, leading to an even more intense competition. As a result of this fierce competition, many outstanding players were unfortunately unable to obtain a spot. The good thing was the ones who did obtain a spot were bound to be more outstanding. No one knew where None Dare Attack or Lower Your Head came from, nor if they were new players influenced by Joe Zekai. However, although their 30 stockings were still far from Yishu and Steamed Bun, compared to other players, they were absolutely exceptional. Most teams consisted of 5 players. Playing as a 2-player team might be the most difficult way of participating in this event. In the individual rankings, everyone was on their own. For 5-player versus 5-player teams, the numbers on each side were equal, but 2 versus 5 was undoubtedly the biggest discrepancy possible in this event. Yet even with that discrepancy, these two were able to obtain 30 stockings. Each player averaged 15 stockings. They didn't need to be compared to other teams. They could even be compared with those in the individual rankings. In the individual rankings, Tang Ru acquired 27, Mo Fan and Wu Chen both obtained 32. All 3 of them were far ahead of their competition. The highest total stocking count for the other individuals was still around 16 stockings. This record was only one more stocking greater than the record set by None Dare Attack and Lower Your Head. Despite being in the most disadvantageous position, these two were able to acquire 15 stockings each. If they participated in the individual rankings, they would be existences that looked down upon countless players. Who are these two? After seeing the average stocking rankings, Wei Chen was curious about the 2 above them. 2 sharpshooters. After Yishu saw their classes, he had clearly thought of something. Do you think they're pro players? Wei Chen guessed. If they were pro players, which team has 2 sharpshooters? Yishu said. Samsara, Wei Chen blurted out. He was truly a Samsara spy. He knew Team Samsara's situation very well. Otherwise, how could he have pretended to be a Samsara fan? So you're saying one of them is Joe Zekai? Yishu said. Wei Chen didn't know what to say. Joe Zekai only being able to get 30 stockings? Wouldn't that be too embarrassing? After winning the championships, he was the undisputed number 1 player in Glory. Tiny Herb also had 2 sharpshooters. Chao Yifan stood up and brought some information into the discussion. I don't think they're pro players. Yishu said. Just take Joe Zekai, the number 1 player in Glory. Just 30 stockings was too disgusting to look at. He couldn't just step on other pro players either. If 30 stockings was inadequate for him, then how could 30 stockings be adequate for any other pro players? Yishu and Steamed Bun had snatched 51 stockings, no? Even though they had gotten lucky, Yishu had pretty much figured out this event. Based on his judgment, if pro players competed with normal players, they would at least acquire a minimum of 40 stockings over 3 rounds. If they were lucky, they would get more. If they were unlucky, they would get fewer. Pro players could crush normal players with ease. Joe Sakai being the number 1 player in Glory wasn't the reason he would attain an outstanding record. The reason should be because the opponents were too weak, so everyone was very amazing. If not pro players, then who are they? Wei Chen said. Let's see if I can add them as a friend and contact them, Yi Shu said. Are you saying? Wei Chen had thought of it. If they weren't pro players, then they were definitely sleeping experts. After getting a better understanding of them, perhaps they had the potential to be stars in the pro scene. Moreover, it would be 2 at once. Chapter 902. There's still a third round. You could never have too many outstanding talents even if it resulted in competition. That would be considered a good type of problem. Not every team had sharpshooters, but when teams selected talents, class was only a reference. It wasn't usually a deciding factor. In the end, what mattered was the player's skill level. Moreover, the Glory combat system wasn't rigid. Oftentimes, players were simply more adept and familiar with their original class. Switching to a new class just required some grinding and getting used to. There were very few cases where a class was completely incompatible with another. Thus, in this average stocking rankings, when these 2 brilliant players appeared and Yi Shu came up with this idea, none of the club guilds lost to Yi Shu in this area. Friend invites flew at these 2 players like snowflakes. Yi Shu himself was a bigger name than any of the existing guild leaders, but compared to what the other invitations represented, his invite was undoubtedly the lightest. No matter how it was said, Happy was a newly formed team. Happy was still a team in the Challenger League. With a powerhouse like Excellent Era in this season's Challenger League, Happy's future prospects was extremely unpredictable. But the other guilds? The teams supporting the guilds stood steadily rooted in the Pro Alliance. What they could provide to these 2 players was very different from what Happy could provide them with. Even Excellent Era extending an invite was more solid than an invite from Happy. Their confidence could be more easily trusted. Yi Shu's friend request still went through smoothly, except when he messaged him. It took a long time before he finally got a response back, in the middle of an event. Yi Shu was stunned. Christmas event? Yi Shu replied. Yes, the other side quickly replied. They haven't finished all 3 rounds yet. Wei Chen, who had come over to watch, cried out in astonishment. 30 stockings wasn't their final total? It was only their total after 2 rounds. If they continued with their average stockings per round, after 3 rounds, the 2 players would end up with around 45 stockings. Yi Shu had felt that above 40 stockings could be considered pro level. He originally thought that these 2 players weren't quite there, but from the looks of it, their skill level was rather high-end. Could they really be pro players? Yi Shu didn't hurry to ask. The other side was currently busy with their event. Yi Shu waited patiently. As for when the event would end, that was very easy. He simply needed to watch the average stocking rankings closely. Once their round ended, there was no way those 2 wouldn't be able to get a single stocking. When their numbers updated, it would mean that their final round of the event was complete. Yi Shu didn't have to wait long. Sure enough, the average stocking ranking for this 2-player team updated. 46 stockings. The final total for None Dare to Attack and Lower Your Head was evidently at the top. Yi Shu and Steamed Bun had obtained 51 stockings because they had achieved a Grand Slam in the first round through some very good luck. If not, according to their performance in the second and third round, their average stockings per round would be around 15 or 16 stockings. For 3 rounds, their total would have been around 45 stockings too. None Dare to Attack and Lower Your Head looked as if they lost to Yi Shu and Steamed Bun, but their competitiveness wasn't below Yi Shu and Steamed Bun. Pros. After their event ended, Yi Shu immediately messaged them. If they were actually pro players, there was no need to waste any time on them. No, their reply gave Yi Shu a thread of hope. However, he understood that this outstanding achievement must also have been noticed by the various club guilds. Fishing for talents in the game was one of the main duties of a club guild. If they didn't ask at all, that would be neglecting their duties. Yi Shu reckoned that these 2 were currently receiving a bombardment of messages. It was hard to avoid receiving concise replies. Are you busy right now? Yi Shu was very understanding. Yes, the other side replied bluntly like before. Yishu didn't waste time and went straight to the main subject. Your skill levels are very high. My guess is that the top teams will reach out to you. What are your thoughts? Are you planning on moving along this path? It's being considered, the other side replied simply. Haha, have you considered trying to get more of a challenge? Yishu said. From the Challenger League? The other side replied. From the looks of it, they weren't experts like Mo Fan who had no knowledge of the outside world. The other side had a good understanding of the Glory Pro scene and knew that Lord Grimm's team Happy was currently participating in the Challenger League. The other side could hear Yishu's intentions. What do you think? Are you interested? Yishu asked. Haha, no, the other side directly put the nail in the coffin. Actually, participating in the Challenger League can be considered a warm-up. Then, the next step is officially joining the Pro League. It's a very good transition. Yishu wasn't discouraged and continued to put out facts and reasons. Is there even a need to do that? The other side replied. You guys are very confident, Yishu said. Of course, the other side replied. Yishu looked at Wei Chen and Chen Guo, expressing rather apologetic expressions. The other side didn't say much, and the content was very simple, but Yishu could read quite a lot about their situation from just that. The other side had a good understanding of the glory scene. Even though they never stated their intentions, Yishu could clearly sense the other side's attitude. They had ambitions for the pro scene and were confident in their own abilities. It would be very difficult to convince someone like that to join their newly created Team Happy. Team Happy currently had no status nor could they pay high salaries. Apart from Wei Chen and Wu Chen, everyone that had been netted in by Happy had grown together. Everyone practiced and prepared to become pro players together. However, for these two, whether it was confidence or conceit, their attitudes were no different than pro players. Perhaps they still had space for improvement, but at this moment, they considered themselves as mature already. Mature players would obviously choose mature teams. Team Happy was still in its preparation phase and naturally weren't even be in their realm of consideration. It was the same reason why many pro players wouldn't choose to join Happy, unless there was a special reason. However, for these two, Yishu couldn't think of a special reason. The other side had completely ignored the challenge and time allowed for adapting to the environment brought about by the Challenger League. These two guys are kinda crazy, Wei Chen sighed. Wei Chen wasn't the only one who had these thoughts. The various club guilds had sensed the arrogance and confidence from these two. However, it was still their responsibility. They couldn't judge them based on their own preferences. First, they did some preliminary probing to get a good read on their situation. At the same time, they sent this information to their club. The guild department was in charge of finding talents, but whether the talent would be used or not wasn't within their scope of authority. It wasn't as simple as just adding them to the guild. When the club received the news, all sorts of specialists immediately convened to discuss the matter. It wasn't possible to determine their strength and start giving offers just from their performance in this event. Once the official discussion started, the clubs asked about their names, ages, and other basic information. Apart from that, they wanted to see recordings of them in combat. If not, sparring with them in the arena was fine too. In other words, the first thing that needed to be done was figure out their true level of skill before making any arrangements. Don't look at how Yishu immediately asked if they were interested in a challenge. If the other side had replied yes, Yishu would have asked similar questions. Unfortunately, Happy failed to even reach that step. Yishu didn't continue further understanding the two players, but someone had come to him for advice. Lu Guaning. Team Heavenly Sword's boss and team captain had already received a recording of them in actual combat. He invited Yishu to watch it together with him and help evaluate them. Sure, Yishu didn't refuse. Even though he had no hopes of getting them to join Happy, Yishu was actually very curious about them. He wanted to see just what skill level they were at. The file was in Glory's recording format. It was loaded into Glory and played. On screen, a 1v1 confrontation appeared. The two characters were None Dare to Attack and Lower Your Head. The two characters were wearing popular sharpshooter attire, a trench coat and a cowboy hat. The style had become popular because of Joe Zekai's character. Cloud Piercer's long gray trench coat and black cowboy hat practically became signature sharpshooter equipment. It was as if wearing this type of equipment would let them bring out the same skill that Joe Zekai's Cloudpiercer had. Later on, because so many copied it, players started to change up the color scheme. The battle soon began. The two fought extremely intensely. Their fighting was dazzling to the eye. Chen Guo, who was watching on the side, felt her eyes go blurry, but not long afterwards, she turned her head and glanced at Wei Chen. Wei Chen curled his lips in disdain. Fake. Yi Shu nodded his head. The two are cooperating together. What? Chen Guo recovered from her shock. They're not actually fighting, Yi Shu said, but continue to watch it carefully. However, their purpose isn't to trick people. They're displaying their comprehensive capabilities. Their skill level is okay, Wei Chen said. The skill level shown on the recording was quite high. However, since it was scripted, they must have certainly practiced this routine. If not, how could all of their skill be comprehensively displayed so coincidentally? Wei Chen had considered this point in giving his final evaluation, so the evaluation was rather restrained. Yi Shu nodded his head in approval. Lu Guaning messaged him at this moment. This was a practiced routine, right? Yeah, Yi Shu replied. No wonder, Lu Guaning was as stunned as Chen Guo, but his skill level was higher, so he quickly saw through the reason. There's more as well. Lu Guaning sent another file. It wasn't a glory recording formatted file. This type of file usually had some editing involved. As expected, this video were edits of their real combat. This time, it wasn't a performance. The two weren't each other's opponents. It was clips of the two fighting alongside each other in the arena. There were 2v2s, 2v3s, 2v4s, even 2v5s. Normal player skill levels weren't enough to be a threat to these two players, so these recordings didn't show whether they won or lost. It was entirely a highlight of their brilliant performances. These are very coordinated, Chen Guo immediately blurted out after watching the video. Chapter 903. Your time's already over. After Chen Guo said those words, she immediately felt regret because her past experience told her that every time she commented on anything related to glory, Yi Shu would always help her recognize that she didn't know enough. This time, she couldn't help herself and gave quick praise. As soon as she said it, she woke up to reality and glanced cautiously at Yi Shu. This time was an exception though. Not only did Yi Shu not immediately help her, he nodded his head. They are indeed quite good. Yeah, Wei Chen also praised them. They've got some skill. I really don't want to miss out on such great talents, Yi Shu sighed. He opened up his friends list and found the two of them again. After careful consideration, what do you think? Do you have any interest in joining Happy? Yi Shu messaged. The videos had proved their outstanding talent. Such strong players gave them even more reason to stay away from Happy, but Yi Shu didn't want to give up on them. Still none, the two were clearly together. Sending a message to one was equivalent to sending a message to both. Seeing Yi Shu's message, the two were a bit dumbfounded. The previous "we'll contact you if we're interested" had just been out of courtesy. But from the looks of it, Yi Shu had treated these words as a task. Compared to Yi Shu, who was pestering them endlessly, after the clubs examined their skill from these videos, they immediately attached even more importance to them and became cautious. They attached more importance to them because these two were worthy of being fought over. They became cautious because they knew that if they wanted to grab these two, they would certainly face many competitors. How could they sell the benefits of joining their team and convince them not to join the others? The 8 immortals crossed the sea, each showing off their capabilities. Team Samsara could say that their team possessed the greatest sharpshooter player and character in all of glory. If you come to our team, we can bring out your strength to the limits. As for already having the best sharpshooter, making the existence of these two sharpshooters mostly worthless, they could only hope that the other side would not think of that possibility. Promises of the future. Promises of status. And of course, promises of riches. Every club told the other side the benefits of joining their team and hid the disadvantages. The other clubs became stepping stones for their own cause. The top teams said, come to our team, going to a weak team would just be a waste of your talent. On the other hand, the weak teams said, come to our team, as soon as you join, you'll be a part of the main roster. If you join the top teams, who knows what would happen with all that competition. In short, everyone enticed them with all sorts of things. Yi Shu trying to persuade them with the advantages of participating in the Challenger League and growing with the team appeared extremely feeble. These types of things would clearly be held in disregard by the two being fought for by all the top teams. This could be seen from the other side's reply, who treated their ink as gold. Yi Shu reckoned that if he continued pestering them, the two might very well be too lazy to maintain their polite etiquette and just block him outright. How unfortunate. When Yi Shu said these words again, he felt even more remorseful than before. This time, he clearly understood that Happy would not be able to acquire these two. And at the same time, Lu Guaning was constantly messaging Yi Shu trustingly, sharing what information he had. He was hoping for Yi Shu to give him advice. This guy, did he not know that Yi Shu was also in a charge of a team and also wanted to obtain these two? He understood all too well, but he understood these two players even better. They most likely wouldn't lower themselves to play in the Challenger League, let alone for a grassroots team like Happy. The two had prepared these excellent videos beforehand. Before, they had been nobodies, but during the Christmas event, they instantly amazed the world with a single brilliant feat. Anyone with a discerning eye would know that it wasn't a coincidence. Even if they didn't appear today, sooner or later, these two would suddenly pop up before everyone. That had been their plan all along. Through this plan, they could beautifully raise their value. Their ambition could be seen from this plan. They had been waiting for an opportunity that satisfied them, so they could have the upper hand in their negotiations. F***CK, Misty Rain increased the price again. Are they short of players? Lu Guaning complained to Yi Shu. As a new team in the alliance, their strength was weak and their record was subpar. Apart from having money, there was nothing else worthy about Team Heavenly Swords. If they wanted to rope in these two, they could only rely on money. Unfortunately, they encountered an opponent even in this area. Team Misty Rain performed consistently, but always failed at the final leg of the race. They nipped at the heels of these two very tightly. As for Misty Rain's offering price, Yi Shu didn't know how Lu Guaning found out, but he didn't ask. If their only opponent was Misty Rain, then Lu Guaning still had confidence. Even when playing the money card, there was still a limit. No matter how eye-catching these two players were, they would still be rookies at best. Whether or not they would end up as dragons or as bugs, no one could be 100% certain. Investments into rookies were always a risky venture. After several price raises, Lu Guaning started to hesitate about increasing the amount again. Team Heavenly Sword's current placing wasn't good, but they had passed through the most difficult days. Although the team was still in danger of falling into the relegation zone, their future was trending upwards. Lu Guaning was more and more confident in being able to maintain their current position. At this moment, did he need to improve anything? Move up from 17th to 16th, from 15th to 14th, 12th to 11th? If it wasn't enough to enter the playoffs, then Lu Guaning wasn't too interested. However, climbing to a spot that would qualify them for the playoffs from their current position relying on these two players didn't seem very likely either. From this point of view, these two weren't very valuable to him either. After the offering price increased a few times, Lu Guaning considered giving up on them. At this crucial moment, he wanted Yi Shu's advice. Yi Shu replied. Lu Guaning was confused. What you said makes a lot of sense, Yi Shu said. You have no other thoughts to add, Lu Guaning said. These two are very ambitious. They aren't going to be satisfied with just one aspect being good. They want both status and a future. At the same time, high pay would be desirable for them too. Just relying on pay probably isn't enough for these two. In terms of status, for your team, you're both the team's owner and a player. Your voice will always be the biggest. As for the future, Heavenly Swords doesn't look like they'll have a brilliant future right now, right? Yi Shu satisfied his request and told him his thoughts. Okay, Lu Guaning could hear Yi Shu's thoroughness and decided to give up on them. Perhaps throwing enough money could buy them, but he would only be relying on money to make up for their other ambitions. This expense would certainly be enormous. Lu Guaning was wealthy, but he would never spend money recklessly. Heavenly Swords withdrew from the competition, and at the same time, mid-tier and low-tier teams with no money or strength and could only promise them starting roles could only withdraw as well. Yi Shu still persevered. It seemed like unless they blocked him, he wouldn't give up. If you join us, struggling starting from the bottom, going against the flow, all the way until you go up the entire waterfall, doesn't that just get you fired up? Yi Shu urged. God, save your breath. Your time's already over. The other side really seemed kind of annoyed at Yishu's persistence. They had been too lazy to elaborate before, but this time, their words were brimming with ridicule. They were sincere though. Yishu's pestering didn't make them block Lord Grimm. Instead, they stopped caring and told him their true thoughts. Haha, it's still early, Yishu calmly continued on. Is that so? Then how about you prove that to us? They had already torn off their facade and stopped acting polite. You guys don't want to be a part of the miracle that will soon happen? Yishu said. We'll wipe our eyes and wait. What a pity, Yishu said. Oh. I feel like you two have missed an opportunity that will go down in glory history, Yishu said. Haha, we'll go down in glory history sooner or later. Haha, I've already gone down in glory history. It was just a difference of a few words, but the weight it held was completely different. Beautiful, Chen Guo slammed the table and yelled out. When the other side started mocking Yishu, Chen Guo was completely furious. Chen Guo felt sad that Yishu could only endure it, but after confirming that a peaceful conversation was no longer possible, Yishu fired back. Such a flip of face felt even better than a flip of a page. Chen Guo was very fond of that. You should have done that long ago. Chen Guo felt like Yishu should have fired back a long time ago. Taking their mockery and responding by inviting them to witness a miracle was simply unnecessary. Sigh, I couldn't win them over, Yishu sighed. But at least you made them angry, Chen Guo said. I was being genuine when I said that it was a pity, Yishu said. When our happy becomes the champions, don't you think they'll regret today's decision? You were serious? Chen Guo said. I was serious, Yishu said. Okay, what a pity then, Chen Guo said. Are you serious? As if I was King serious. Hurry up and continue doing those event quests. Stop wasting time, Chen Guo roared. Even though they had used their 3 attempts on these accounts, didn't they have other alternate accounts? You could never have too many stockings. After everyone switched characters, they started running the Christmas events again. Those two better not think about joining our happy, Chen Guo said to stop wasting time, but she raised the topic again. She was still angry. Please. They never even thought about it in the first place. Okay, Yishu said. You shut up, Chen Guo yelled. Chapter 904. A Chance Encounter. Chen Guo wished she could see their faces filled with regret because they missed the opportunity to become champions with Team Happy. She even turned that into her motivation for working harder. Right now, she was loudly urging everyone in Happy to keep their spirits high. Of course, everyone confronted this event energetically. At this moment, they were busy switching the equipment from their main accounts to their alternate accounts. The equipment on their alternates were much worse than the equipment on their mains. In order to maximize their strengths, no one in Happy minded improving the strength of their alternates to the peak temporarily. Everyone except for 2 people had corresponding alternate accounts. One exception was Mo Fan. This guy had his own alternate, the assassin, not white, that he had used before when scrap picking. Who knew when this guy managed to find time to level it up to level 75? Everyone was using their alternates right now. Instead of requesting an alternate from Happy, he directly brought out his own not white. The other exception was Yishu. There was no other active unspecialized characters in existence besides Lord Grimm. Yishu didn't level up another unspecialized specifically for this purpose. In reality, even if he did, there might not be anyone but him who could level it up. Unspecialized characters needed to complete the Heavenly Domain challenge at level 50 in order to continue leveling up. That wasn't something an ordinary person could achieve. However, not having an unspecialized didn't affect Yishu much. He picked a random class from the alternates remaining and equipped it with some decent equipment to use. The team members were the same. The class and equipment were the same. What else needed to be said? Their achievements once again looked down on everyone. One group after the other popped up on the rankings. The club guilds watched. All of them were from Happy. They immediately understood intuitively. They were using this method too. The event had a limited number of attempts per account. In theory, the rewards should be more valuable than the rewards for an event that allowed for unlimited attempts. The club guilds thought of ways to give their most skilled core players alternate accounts to use. Happy was also doing the same. Though everyone could only watch it unfold gloomily, there was nothing they could do. Just when everyone was continuing to loathe Happy, a formidable total suddenly appeared on the rankings late in the afternoon. The big guilds were a bit numb to it at this point. They originally thought that Team Happy had started a third round of alternates, but when they checked, they discovered that it wasn't by Happy, but Excellent Dynasty. How could anyone in Excellent Dynasty have someone at that caliber? As long-standing competitors, the numerous guilds knew each other very well. When they took a closer look at the classes of these Excellent Dynasty players, didn't it seem similar to the class composition of Team Excellent Era? Everyone was helpless. Happy and Excellent Era, the two teams that were currently in the Challenger League, far surpassed their achievements in this Christmas event. What could they do about it though? Who let these people fight in the Challenger League instead of putting all their efforts into the Pro League? The big guilds hoped their players could showcase their might, but they knew that it was impossible. As a result, everyone could only stare helplessly at the achievements of these two guilds. Excellent Era's people. If the big guilds could see it, Happy was obviously not an exception. It isn't strange, Yi Shu said, if we have so much time, how could they not? If that's the case, then we have competition. Wei Chen examined the current rankings. The two sides were neck and neck in the team and individual rankings. A difference of 1 or 2 stockings couldn't be considered a lead until the very end. We'll just do our best. Don't think too much of it, Yi Shu said. The first day of the event ended. On the team rankings, the team led by Wei Chen's Windward Formation still held first place with 55 Christmas stockings. However, number 2 was no longer Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion with 51 stockings. On Excellent Dynasty's side, it was clearly Xiao Shikan leading the team, which sat at second place with 53 stockings. With just a 2-stocking difference, it was really too hard to say who was better than the other, but there is one point. Windward Formation's team, as well as Lord Grimm's team, had explosive luck for one round. On the other hand, Excellent Dynasty had very consistent performances in all 3 rounds. If it wasn't for their luck? Happy's alternate accounts answered this question. 51 stockings and 47 stockings. Without a Grand Slam, their achievements were lacking. With these totals, none dare attack and lower your head were nipping closely at their heels. We can't lose to them no matter what, Chen Guo gave a death order as the boss. Although Excellent Era was her hated enemy, at the moment, none dare attack and lower your head had caused an OT. Chen Guo's aggro had temporarily shifted all her anger onto those two. The next day on 12/26, everyone in Happy logged on. They instinctively checked the rankings. The rankings didn't change much, but there was one notable change. It could be seen that the teams that obtained around 30 stockings or 10 stockings for individuals had been lucky. After another 3 rounds, they could not replicate their achievements from yesterday. Of course, there were still a few that did better. With another 3 rounds under their belt, others were now in the lead in the team and individual rankings. However, although they had a higher total, it was only temporary, unless Happy and Excellent Dynasty didn't even attempt to run the event today. Yi Shu didn't know if Excellent Dynasty would continue coming. He didn't plan on finding out. In short, they began taking on the event leisurely. After the first round, there was already a reversal. On their second run, another reversal happened. None dare attack and lower your head had thrown those bitterly struggling teams with 6 rounds to the dust after just 1 round as well. Those 2 guys are just too arrogant, Chen Guo said. Yi Shu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They were just trying their best at these events like everyone else. What arrogance? When Chen Guo looked at someone unfavorably, she often treated them completely unreasonably. Then, the third round. When they entered the map, they checked the blank scoreboard to see who was participating in this event. This time, when Yi Shu checked the scoreboard, he suddenly blurted out, "What a coincidence. None dare attack. Lower your head." Yi Shu actually saw these 2 names. They were like Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion, a duo. They were listed as participants on the scoreboard. Teach them a lesson, Chen Guo was excited. The goal is to get stockings, Yi Shu said. This rational and calm statement made Chen Guo feel annoyed. Fortunately, she understood how Yi Shu did things and continued to egg him on, "There'll definitely be obstacles. Everyone is an obstacle in this event," Yi Shu continued to rational. "But they're not as big of a threat as those 2, Chen Guo stressed. "That might not be true. It depends on the circumstances," Yi Shu said. He adjusted his headphones. It seemed like he was going to concentrate on the game and wouldn't talk with Chen Guo anymore. He turned his head and shouted, "Steam Bun, where are you going?" "There seems to be people over there," Steam Bun also shouted, "but boss, the wind isn't as strong. I don't think we need to shout, even though it does feel great to talk like this." "Keep a low profile," Yi Shu said. "Understood," Steam Bun replied. At the same time, Steam Bun Invasion started crouching as he walked. Sure enough, he kept a low profile. 10 stockings spawned in the beginning. Yi Shu and Steam Bun hadn't found any. None of the other players found any either. The peace and quiet lasted for quite a long time. At this moment, everyone thought the map was bugged. This time, there was no snowstorm. The weather was exceptionally clear. As a result, the sunlight was strong, reflecting brightly on the snow. It was too hard to look at directly. Who knew how many times a pair of stockings had been missed because of the glare? "Ow, it hurts," Steam Bun complained, "it makes my eyes tired." "Does anyone have eye drops?" Steam Bun cared a lot about protecting his eyes. No one usually treated his words seriously though, so when everyone heard his question, they pretended they didn't hear anything. But then from somewhere, a small bottle of eye drops flew towards Steam Bun. Steam Bun caught it and looked in that direction. The thrower didn't even expose his head, but only Mo Fan sat at that row of computers. "You actually had some. How professional. How fancy," Steam Bun praised. He looked at the eye drops and asked, "How do I use it?" "You're actually going to use it?" Tang Ru asked. She seemed to be worried that Steam Bun might somehow drink the bottle of eye drops. "Help me," Steam Bun said. "Raise your head. Close your eyes." Tang Ru took the eye drops from Steam Bun's hands. "If I close my eyes, how will they work?" Steam Bun asked, while doing as Tang Ru instructed. Tang Ru used her left hand to open his eyes. With her right hand, she lifted the eye drops and dripped it onto his eyes. "Okay, don't move. Blink a few times." "You really are little Tang. Your hands are so fast. Check out how fast I can blink," Steam Bun said, while blinking wildly. "Amazing," Tang Ru praised. After getting praised, Steam Bun stopped blinking. His head stayed in a raised position as if he had a nosebleed. "Steam Bun, are you done?" Yi Shu asked. "Boss, would you like some? It's all cold. It feels so comfortable," Steam Bun recommended. "No need. Hurry up and get back to playing," Yi Shu said. "What a pity," Steam Bun sighed. He continued to control his Steam Bun invasion and followed Lord Grimm closely. At this moment, a stocking was finally found. First, everyone checked the name on the system announcement. Next, they checked the rankings to see which team he belonged to. It was something everyone did after a day's worth of runs. Then, the entire team would become a target of everyone because no one knew if the stocking had been moved to another player. At the entrance of a gorge in the Snow Valley, the team with the only stocking happened to encounter 2 uninvited guests. Sounds of battle echoed. Gunshots resounded continuously. After a short moment, a system notification appeared. None dare attack had picked up a stocking. At this moment, the total number of stockings collected was still 1. Chapter 905. It's easier like this. In the 5 vs 2 battle, the 5-player team was annihilated by the 2 in the end. The crucial question of who among the 5 players had the stockings immediately lost its meaning when the team was exterminated. Gaining the upper hand by showing our strength, I like this style, Yi Shu praised. The event continued. The second pair, third pair, and fourth pair. The stockings continued to be collected by players. The battles grew more and more frequent because the number of players that had acquired a stocking had increased. Among the unceasing announcements from the system, "None dare attack" and "Lower your head" were undoubtedly the most eye-catching names on TV. The system continued to notify everyone about the 2 picking up stockings. In comparison, the stocking total for Lord Grimm and Steam Bun Invasion's group, who were ahead of these 2 in the team rankings, was unsightly. Until now, their total was still 0. However, who among the players of this map would care whether their performance was good or bad? They only cared more about whether they could get their hands on any stockings. A new pair of stockings spawned at the northwestern corner of the Snow Hills. A small group coincidentally passed by, so they went to pick it up with surprise. However, the gun muzzles of 2 sharpshooters suddenly spat out gunfire. They used aerial fire continuously and arrived before them in an instant, moving as if they were sliding across the snowy grounds. The battle began before anyone had the time to pick up the stockings. However, the 5-player team obviously showed no interest towards fighting. They wanted to get the stockings before deciding on anything else, but none dare attack and lower your head's train of thought was clear. The 2 didn't show any intentions of collecting the stocking and simply attacked the opposing team. The sharpshooters coordinated harmoniously, and their bullets flew out continuously. Unfortunately, the 5-player team didn't have a character from the gunner class, so the 5's attack speed was not as good as the 2 sharpshooters. None dare attack and lower your head kept their distance while scattering the wild enemy attacks. The 5-player team finally picked up the stockings, but what good did it do? If they couldn't deal with their current opponent, the stocking would eventually drop back on the ground. The ending was rather tragic. The team who had the stockings fiercely attacked the 2, but the 2 then split up and pincered them. They didn't know who to attack. On the other hand, the 2 were extremely familiar with suppressing, switching fire, and focusing targets, so the opponents were cleared up one by one. In the end, they collected the dropped stockings on the ground, changed directions, and left. Truly not bad. Once the 2 left, a character jumped out from a small, snow pit. Yi Shu spun Lord Grimm's view around and scanned the battlefield where the fight had happened, as if he was reflecting on the previous fight. However, he soon headed for the direction none dare attack and lower your head had left for. At this moment, Steamed Bun was also squatting in a snow pit, but this time, his view was no longer locked on one position. Instead, he constantly spun his view 360 degrees left and right, noticing if anyone got close. There it is. In a certain place, a team of players walked this way while looking in every direction. Steamed Bun continued to stare. As he stared, he saw that the team of players didn't plan on changing direction. As a result, he suddenly leapt up from the snow pit, rolled forward, turned around, and ran. At the same time, the system gave an announcement: Steamed Bun Invasion picked up a stocking. Others might not care which among the 2 2-player teams had collected more stockings, but the 2 teams themselves cared quite a bit. When she saw this notification, None Dare Attack subconsciously opened up the ranking. When she saw it, she let out a straightforward sneer. Only one, None Dare Attack laughed. Haha, all the stockings are with us. They are thinking too much, lower your head spoke. I look forward to them sending themselves to our door, None Dare Attack said. At least they have a stocking with them, lower your head spoke mockingly. After that, the 2 laughed and continued to rush across the snowy grounds, looking for stockings or teams with stockings. They didn't notice at all that, at a relatively far distance, a shadow was always following them. It appeared from time to time in the snow. None Dare Attack and lower your head's number of stockings continued to accumulate. They had already become the target of everyone on the map. However, the 2 were sharpshooters, so their attack range was long, so they had a lot more flexibility. This way why they gained the upper hand most of the time, without having to spend too much time on the defensive. In the past, the moment the 2 collected 15 pairs of stockings, all of the stockings in the whole map might have been collected, so there would be a 120-second countdown. If this was a normal team and they had so many stockings, they would definitely hope for the 2-minute countdown to be over quickly. However, the 2 despised this setting. It was because of this countdown that they were never able to find a target with stockings within the time limit, so the event would finish. This was why they weren't able to achieve a Grand Slam. As for this time, when the 2, once again, broke through the record of collecting 15 stockings, there was still a pair of stockings with an uncollected status. This was an unprecedented situation, so the 2 became a bit excited. If they could continue to keep their current total, then they had the chance of getting a Grand Slam. At this time, the 2 completely forgot to compare with the other 2-player team, they looked eagerly everywhere for their target. There were 20 stockings on the entire map, and one was uncollected. None Dare Attack's team had 16 stockings. There were 20 pairs of stockings in the whole map, and one was uncollected. Some time passed and None Dare Attack's team now had 17 stockings. The 2 became more excited and nervous when another pair of stockings was picked up. Don't let the last pair of stockings be collected by another so quickly. The 2 prayed silently. 18 pairs, there were 2 left. One of them was uncollected, and they knew which team had the last one without checking the rankings: Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion's 2-player team. Say, would they let us find them? None dare attack spoke. As the target of everyone in the map, the two had already fought with all the teams possible, except for the rival they had originally paid attention to the most. However, even though the two had appeared on TV a couple of times, they only have one stocking. This clearly showed that they had dropped stockings before. Since they had dropped stockings and didn't dare to snatch stockings from them, the two began to look down on Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion even more. When other players didn't have any stockings, they dared to overlook the gap in strength and attempted to snatch stockings. After all, there were no losses if you died. However, those two wouldn't dare, so none dare attack and lower your head thought that it was because those two were concerned about their reputation, and feared to lose face when they were defeated. It's God, yeah. If they really plan on hiding, I think even we might not be able to find them, lower your head said. We'll see if they dare, none dare attack said. She even sent Lord Grimm a message, telling him their current position. So generous. Calling us to come over? They didn't receive any replies. Instead, they heard a person speak. The two were shocked, and jumped separately into 2 positions. They moved into a pincer formation towards the source of the voice. The 2 players' ability in locating the source of the sound was actually pretty accurate. Shouldn't you be welcoming me? Yishu's Lord Grimm came out from a small, snow mound beside him with his umbrella in hand. As he stood in the snowy grounds, he had a demeanor that no one else possessed. When the two saw Lord Grimm from a close distance, their first impression was that his flowery and green equipment were quite revolting to look at. If this was a windbreaker, the two thought. Yes, this was the general aesthetic standard that sharpshooter players had. Windbreakers were the most beautiful, windbreakers are the most aesthetic, windbreakers are the most elegant. If a sharpshooter didn't wear a windbreaker, then you're not a good sharpshooter. Players who couldn't appreciate windbreakers must be noobs. However, after they looked over Lord Grimm's equipment, their thoughts finally returned to the subject. Were you beside us the entire time? None dare attack spoke. The other side arrived the moment she had sent out her message. It would have been too much of a coincidence. Evidently, this guy was beside them from the very beginning, and he continued to keep an eye out for them. Was he preparing a sneak attack? If so, Lord Grimm was not as cowardly as they had thought. Yeah, I was always nearby, but I've never been so close before, so I didn't know that you two were girls until just now, Yishu said. Though he had been following them previously, the distance was rather far, so he couldn't hear their voices. This time, when his Lord Grimm came out at the final moment, he could hear the two speaking and was quite surprised. These two had chosen male sharpshooter characters. Their names were also quite domineering too. The sharpshooter duo that had risen to fame overnight actually consisted of 2 girls. You've been following us this entire time. The two cared more about this point. They didn't have any reactions to Yishu knowing that they were girls. Although the two had chosen male characters, their voices weren't altered. They clearly didn't intend on concealing their gender. There weren't many males who played as female characters, but there were quite a lot of females that played as male characters. Girls would sometimes pick a male character because they liked the character's appearance. Yup, Yishu said. What do you plan on doing? Do you need to ask? Obviously I'm here for your stockings, Yishu said. Despicable, how could the two not understand at this point? This guy had planned on letting them sweep the field and then take all of their stockings in one go. Dealing with 2 people is much easier than dealing with 48 others, Yishu grinned. Just you? The two sneered. Of course not. I have a teammate too. Steamed Bun, Yishu called out. I'm almost there. Steamed Bun's reply came from outside the game. The other side didn't know that though. When they heard Yishu call out, they immediately looked around and put up their guard. There was no sign of Steamed Bun Invasion though. Only a system announcement appeared: Steamed Bun Invasion has picked up a pair of stockings. The final stocking was collected and the 120-second countdown began. You plan on beating us in 2 minutes. The two felt like they were being looked down on. You're thinking too much, Yishu remarked. Following afterwards, Lord Grimm raised his hands and a stocking was dropped onto the ground. The countdown disappeared. There was now 1 stocking that hadn't been collected yet. Don't take it yet. That way everyone will that have much more time, Yishu said. The two didn't know what to say. Steamed bun, hurry. They're waiting. The two heard Yishu shout again.